Hi, this is the Be Well with Michelle Greenwell podcast. Our heartwarming conversation is designed to lift you on your wellness journey. Grab your cup of tea and enjoy the podcast. Welcome to the Be Well with Dr. Michelle Greenwell podcast. And today I am joined by my beautiful colleague who's changing the way that we're looking at the science of healing and the way in which we can change how things are happening. Please welcome Dr. Thibaud D'Oultremont. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. It's wonderful to be here.
So I want to share a little bit about his background so you can get an idea of the kind of research and science background. So Dr. Thibaud holds a prestigious title, including the Research Fellow at, I hope I'm going to say this right, CASAS Global. Did I say that?
Yes.
CASAS, in case anybody's going to look that up. A PhD in science and an MA in philosophy of science, a master's in ethics and postdoctoral studies. And these come from Belgium, from France, from California. So you really traveled the globe to do your studies.
Having a lot of fun doing so, yes.
I know him through the role that he plays as president at Natural BioEnergetics Global, and he's worked in the field of energy healing for over a decade. His expertise includes using natural bioenergetics, which involves the application of specific frequencies and vibrations to enhance enzyme activity and overall cellular function. He is the founder of Bioenergy Assist, a company that produces supplements and products aimed at optimizing cellular health through bioenergetics. He has a strong background in ecological modeling and sustaining agricultural systems, having contributed to research on multi-trophic systems and climate change effects on ecosystems. So now as you're listening, you're probably wondering, wow, what are we going to be talking about today? Because your background is in such an amazing area, because you do take this next little piece, the interaction of carnivores, plants, herbivores, and then bringing them into a way to study and build models from that. So, wow, I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's really a fun area. The ecosystem. We are living in an ecosystem, and the more we realize how things are interconnected and how we can model it, the more we realize that we are not one alone, but we are so connected energetically and otherwise. And it changes our lives. So this is a lot of fun.
I love it. And the other thing I think that's interesting for our listeners for today is to realize that we are going to be talking about the collaboration, the interaction, and how we go in and out of nature and in and out of healing, and all of it leading to the wellness that we're all desiring. All right, so before I get started, I always ask, what tea have you brought to the conversation? So I know you brought water. Do you want to share why you chose water?
I brought water. Yeah, water to me, since I started my healing process, I have been stunned by the quality of good water. A water that's good quality and that has the right energy in it. Meaning there's some waters that are really not so good. Others are just fantastic. And when I drink some water that's really fantastic, I feel energized. I feel so good. I can start thinking. Otherwise, I can't really think well. So water to me is a real wonder. We are made out of water and we just need it. I don't put anything in tea. My wife does it. She puts a lot of she uses teas as well. And they're very powerful. Some people love it. And I know that you love them too. Right, Michelle?
Yes, everybody knows I've always got a cup of tea in hand. So the tea that I brought today from the Cape Breton Tea Company is, I had to think about this. I'm going to go into science today. We're going into research. What kind of tea do you take to that conversation? So I brought TEAlightful. And I chose that because fireweed, which the leaf and the flower, was used before they started importing the black teas from China. And so that was already what they were consuming. And you can ferment it, but I've actually done it as a dried herb within my blends. And the spiritual essence of fireweed is to shine a light on the trauma and challenges of experience and move people forward to find a way to put healing at the forefront.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
It really is. Really, I need to try that one.
So the affirmation of this one, so all my tea packages have an affirmation on them. So TEAlightful says, I'm just holding the package in my hand. You wondered what I reached over for. Stop time with this ancient combination from the garden. And so I wanted to talk about, people often say, in my past, this happened to me. And instead we can reframe and we can reflect on our experiences. So today I embrace my experience to help me see my future with resiliency and growth. And that, just the rephrasing of that changes the way we're going to look at what our past brings with us, what we're going to find in our research, what will be able to move us forward. And when we think about fireweed, it's just so full of an energy towards health and wellness, moving us into the future. And I don't have that with all the ingredients that I work with. So
It's a little bit like I'm staying with who I am, but while I am who I am, I want to move into the future. So I'm not denying the past, but I'm moving with it. And that's what the tea is helping you live, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing that a tea can do that?
I know. That's what I love about it. The other piece is I looked at the actual role that fireweed plays, because I was thinking about your background with the ecosystems. And fireweed usually comes in after there's been a forest fire, and it's part of the rebirth process. And it will help stabilize soils that have been upset in some way. But seeds in the rhizomes, which are underground in the root system, they reach deep and actually even pop rocks open so that minerals can come out. And then it can change what's happening from deep within the earth and actually bring that up to the surface. So the fireweed plant it's adaptable, and it even has the capability of self-fertilization. So now we think about, okay, if I'm going to sip on that tea, and if a person is trying to pull themselves from their situation, use some growth, transformation, what an incredible leaf to be able to put into your water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm going to add one more little piece and then we can dive into our conversation. And that is, I connected it with another ingredient in the blend, which is apple. And a lot of people with apple, it's an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So an apple can be very helpful for helping to fulfill the nutrition that you need in your day. But apples also offer a connection to our ancestors and to our future. And they can nurture our spirit, our blessings, and our wisdom. So this becomes the way in magical folklore, the apple shows up a lot. So it demonstrates life-sustaining and longevity properties. So the apple is a great way, then if you put that with fireweed, to really nurture a transformation, but feel that you have everything you need in order to make that change. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for coming to dive into the conversation today. And I'll do a cheers with you. You've got your water and I've got my tea. People who are online who might be able to see the color, it is a beautiful pink, light pink. All right, cheers.
It's gorgeous. The question that pops into my head directly is, has anybody done any research about it?
About the way I put the combination together? No.
Or about just does it help people to deal with their trauma or their
hmm hmm That's some of the background when you're looking up the information about different herbs and playing with herbs. What I like to do is take the essence of the herb rather than as a medicinal piece. And a lot of people they'll target, I need the peppermint because it'll help me with my digestion. But instead, if you look at what is the essence of the herb and how in combination that you put it with other things, what does it do together? And then how does it lift you up rather than just targeting that one thing you think needs to be fixed? And as you and I know, until we've actually muscle monitored to find out what is the priority thing to fix, digestion might be the symptom, but that might not be the background of what's really going on. So you're trying to target with peppermint, and peppermint might not be quite what you were looking for. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's true. It's fascinating to think how science is trying to investigate it, and you can think, okay, we're going to have all these people taking a cup of that tea and then see if that's going to work for their whatever anxiety or whatever it is, and then you have results that can show maybe a little bit of a difference and all that, and then you have a tradition that comes from thousands of years that has worked on it for so long that it becomes a tradition that holds so much. We don't call it science, but because of its maturity, we can, in a way, think maybe it has something to tell us. Calling it science might be a bit pushy, but lining up people, like 100 people with a cup of that tea for their trauma, might not be as powerful as paying attention to a long tradition dealing with it. So it's important for us, while we are thinking about science and how to deal with healing and science, thinking also about a tradition, the importance of tradition. Tradition needs to be for long enough, not a tradition for 20 or 30 years, but hundreds, hundreds, hundreds of years. It needs to. There is a test in time. That's a big test. Yeah.
I brought the idea of bringing the tea to the front of the conversation. One, you've got the smell. So then you have the calming of the system. Limbic system wakes up. The motor system wakes up, which is fascinating. And then you have, while people are listening to the podcast, they're going to have a healing session just because of the way we've brought in the topics and what we're going to do. And what I found with that is usually you and I having our conversation have some new idea that pops up. And that I didn't anticipate. I was just here to support the people listening to the podcast, gain some knowledge, have a healing session, and feel good when you're finished. And then out of that, always there's some kind of nugget. And that's been really interesting. So, and that wasn't happening before when I didn't have the tea as the predominant piece to get us started and activated. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful.
All right. Let's leave the tea. Leave the tea, let people sip away, and I'm going to sip away on mine as well. And let's start by talking a little bit about healing tools. So a lot of people will talk about medicine, but let's talk at it from a different perspective, which is healing tools. Can you shed a light on that?
Well, tools. There are many, many tools, and these tools can be very powerful. Well, your tea is a tool. There are a lot of tools that work on your biofield. Your biofield being this kind of body that you don't see but extends from feet and feet away and are part of yourself. They can work on that. They can work on your meridians, this flow of energy in you. That can be related to emotions and moods and thoughts and all that. Essentially, they can facilitate your self-healing process. That's what these tools are about. So, if you want to talk about tools, you can think about, I don't know how many thousands of tools you can find. There are so many. You just go on the internet and you try to find tools for your meridian system. You're going to find hundreds of them. But um, the important thing is about that is to think that everything in nature vibrates. And you might be kind of desiring, or your system is kind of desiring a vibration that's going to be good for you and restore your balance, whether it is for an organ, whether it is for your biofield, it doesn't matter. You're going to feel it in a way or another. And I'm always fascinated by little kids who are choosing a stone, for example, or choosing a leaf or whatever it is that are good for them that they keep for themselves, or the kind of food when they are not already, they have not eaten too much sugar and all that kind of stuff. But they choose the right food for them as well sometimes when they are very little. These are tools as well. Let's take tools that people know, a stone, for example. There is malachite, for example, that is commonly used for emotional healing, releasing repressed emotions, breaking free from negative habits, this kind of thing. It's also supposed detoxification. It reduces inflammation. It enhances the immune system. Um, I know people who wear them kind of all the time. And they say, without them, I don't feel as well. People are going to tell you, well, is that scientific? Well, what is scientific here? If it works for you and you are sure that it does, and you have tried other things, and you go back to it again and again, yes, there is no test that has been done in a population. That's right. It cannot be called scientific in the way that you didn't have a statistical analysis proving that it works. That's right. But for you, you intimately know that it's working for you. That should be enough now. Could it be a placebo? Yes. But a placebo that works 90% of the time or 95% of the time is not to me a placebo. If it works for you, it works for you. A placebo that works for you, go for it. If somebody tells you it's a placebo, say, oh, well, great. I love my placebo. That's my best tool.
Right.
Right? So your tool, if you feel that your body knows your tool very well and it's good for you, go for it. And a way that Michelle and I and so many people using muscle testing do is test the muscle to know what is good for you. And for you, you could have that stone or a drink or a light or whatever, a flower, an essence, whatever it is, that is really great for you for something specific. Like, I know that I'm going to have a podcast and I might be stressed. What am I going to use? I could ask my body basically through muscle testing, is there something that could help me? For me, it was drinking my water. So through muscle testing, that's our way, my favorite way, um, I can know what my body feels like I need. And it's a fantastic tool. It needs to be done properly, etc. But it's a fantastic tool. Not everybody can do it. It has to be taught. So I'm digressing as usual. But so those tools, you can have stones, you can have other things. You can have experiments done to know if they work. You can still assess their effectiveness. You can see if it is doing good for people, or maybe it is not doing so good. That can happen. So if you want to do that, you just bring a lot of people together. First, you start with about 8 people. and you see if applying this stone on my heart, for example, for 2 minutes has any negative effect on people. You just test. You give them a little questionnaire to fill in, etc., and you see if that works. If there is nothing bad for that, you bring about 30 people, and you see if there is something positive also that comes up to that. That's scientific. You are bringing a lot of people to see if there is an effect from the cause, bringing this stone. What is the effect? Effect on what? Anxiety, for example. That's what your questionnaire is about. And you check, okay, am I more anxious in this kind of situation? Do I feel more stressed in another situation? All these questionnaire. And then from there, you make a statistical analysis. If you see that it's still working very well, you can bring that to more people and make your system a little bit more specific, more precise, and then you might actually end up writing a paper about it. You make something, you don't need to have something very complicated to make research. For example, in the news, was it like a year ago or 2 years ago? There was this girl, I don't know if she was like 10 or 12. She went to bathrooms and you had this machine to dry your hand that was so noisy. She decided to make a little research and she showed scientifically that actually it was not good for children's ears. Just bringing a bunch of people, a lot of, I guess her friends, together and making sure that it was right. So that was scientific research. It was published, and they had to change, at least in the United States, they had to change the way they put this little machine to dry hands for kids. So we
Wow.
could do that also for your tea or for a tool that you use. You can actually do a little research. It doesn't have to be difficult, complicated. You need to have enough people with a very specific purpose, enough people. Start with 8 to see if there is an issue, if it's bad for people. And if you want to know more, 30 and then more. And don't start with a lot because it's going to cost you a lot of money and energy to bring all these people. But starting with 30 is a good number for statistical analysis. And then you can show a lot of things. I'm always amazed by the number of data that we have and we don't use. Right?
Yes, I agree.
We have so much, and we could publish so much from there. So that's really something that I would like to see more and more in our world. So tools, other tools. No, you
Well, and
wanted to say something, Michelle.
yeah, I was just going to say if the scientists could all explain it like you just did to make it very simple how you would want to study, it would be so much easier. But you get wrapped up in that statistical analysis piece and, all the rigors to get that science-based evidence, or even the way people say too, well, does it have science-based evidence? And then that pressure that comes with it. And a lot of times in the work that we're doing in healing work, you've got your individuals, and each person has kind of their thing that's bothering them, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily the same as the next person. So you can have different kinds of results, which then you've got personalized. So that can be a little bit fuzzy. But if everybody explained it nice and simple like you did, amazing. Because if you look at a young person who says, I'm going to make a change, and she can do that with a group of friends, my goodness, that's amazing.
And it's statistical analysis is complicated. Okay, it's right. But you don't have to have a model that is complicated. For example, we're going to speak about that later, but one of the studies that we did with natural bioenergetics is to show if our treatment for COVID would work if you compare it with the general population. And the key word is comparing to the general population. When you do that, and you have to do it well with enough people, etc., blah, blah, blah. But if you compare a specific something, a question to the general population, for example, does this kind of movement decrease stress or anxiety in this situation? You just take that, you study it, you just take records, and then you very simply look at the general population. If you don't have that, are you going to have the same result? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one aspect. And of course, people do a lot of different kind of movements. So my my example might not be the best, but it could be a kind of a yoga pose or whatever it is. So comparing to the general population is probably a very good idea very often. And you don't, I'm saying that also because you don't generally have to have the golden rule of a completely placebo, blind, whatever. Sometimes it's totally unethical, by the way, to do that because some people could die. Like in our COVID study, we would have done a blind placebo, whatever, double-blind study that would have been, to me, unethical because some people could have died from COVID. So you could have something very, very strongly scientific, a very good statistical analysis without having the golden rule of the statistical analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So just saying that because people sometimes say if you don't do that, this double blind, then what's the point? There is a lot of points. You can do it and it's perfectly not only legitimate, but it's very powerfully validated by statistical analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, let's not be scared by these words of statistical analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a little bit difficult to read in a paper. That's all right. But have somebody who knows a little bit about statistical analysis working for you to prepare your experience, your experiment, and go from it. Yeah, go for it. I did my work.
I was when you brought up the idea of the rock, I remember was taking a trip to teach Touch for Health actually in Golden, BC, which is in a triangle of really incredible energy. I didn't know that at the time. I was just going to teach it. But I was on the way there and I could not stay awake. And when I hit Field, BC, there's one little gas station that's open. So I thought, well, I'll go in and I'll get a black tea. I'll get some caffeine and I'll see if I can, make the rest of the trip. And I walked in, I looked at the tea and I thought, I don't really want that. And I walked over to the selection of gemstones that is always in the gift shops, which are all polished rocks. And I picked up a rock and I bought it. And I got out to the car and I thought, what in the world was I thinking? This rock is really going to keep me awake for the rest of the trip. I need to go back in and get the tea. And I thought, no, I bought the rock. I'm just going to go with this. And so I just put it into my shirt next to my belly button and started driving. That was it for the whole rest of the trip. I was wide awake, coherent, and it was like, wow. Now I could have had that caffeine, which would have done the up and then the down by the time I got to my destination. And that was my first dive into the power of rocks and what's possible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing. That reminds me the first time I was a long, long time ago. I was at a practitioner, natural bioenergetics practitioner, and I was helping somebody. It was not for me. I was, scientist looking at energy practice with My glass is down. And what the heck is this thing? And then the practitioner told me, would you be kind enough to hold this for me? I don't have enough hands. Just over that person's body. It was just a little something, a glass with something in it. And then I was like, okay, why not? If I can help you. And then after a few seconds, the thing starts to vibrate. Okay. I was like, what is this? And then it was getting warm. I was amazed. How can this thing, a foot away from this person's body, start to vibrate and get hot? In my scientific world, that could not happen. Could not
Mm-hmm.
happen. And then that person get rejuvenated. I couldn't believe it. So starting to think, okay, I have a PhD in biology. I'm supposed to know these things, and I don't. I don't have a clue. I really don't understand at all what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
So it just opened my mind to the powers of, you spoke about that stone and what that stone can do for you. And I just needed to learn this stuff. So I did. But it is amazing what these things do. And we do not have, scientifically, we do not have the right tools to record these frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
We are starting to have bits and pieces, but we don't have really the best tools to do that yet. Um, I hope I'll be alive when they find a very good tool to record those frequencies and what it does to the body, and because it's going to help so many people. But we need those tools because scientifically you need a record. You need often a number or a bunch of numbers to record the frequency and all that. What we do as practitioners, our bodies know those frequencies. We're able to amplify them, to replicate them, to mimic them, and to use, our meridians and all that to play with it so that the body can self-heal, and that is wonderful. But I'm always thinking about how much wonder it could do to lay people who, like me, had no idea how that was working. And people could start understand that it's actually biophysics, what we are doing. And drinking your tea and holding a stone, it's dealing with a frequency that deals with something in your body that is untrained or that is gets an information or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really fascinating to enter that world.
Mm-hmm.
So
I,
I'm sure I digressed again.
well, in a way, but then we also have to bring it back to what people can understand, right? Because a lot of times it's, especially from the dance world, where I spent a lot of my time was, well, we don't want to talk about these tools because they're not scientifically investigated. And
Mhm.
my fingers are going into quotes, yet we understand within the body how it feels. So we, like you said, if there isn't a machine to measure it yet, then we have this intuitive ability, but we also have this awareness ability. And for those people who this is all brand new and they're just coming into this conversation, to realize intuitively they are sensing those frequencies, they are feeling the difference, they do make choices every day. I want to wear this shirt because I really want to be in red today. you know they are making a choice and they're not realizing they're actually engaging with a frequency. It's the color red, but the red has a frequency, and the tea has a frequency. And I'll say to people too, because you'll notice I put it into this is a sniffer glass, a snifter, and I'll put it often into a wine glass too, because I can hold onto the stem while it's hot. But what happens for people is as it cools off, you'll notice how they put their hands up to the color and they'll wrap their hands around the color and not realizing that's frequency. They're engaging with it, they're able to connect. And you do that with a mug, but you can't see the color inside a mug, whereas you can see that color You can engage with the color by putting your hands around the mug, but here you actually you're holding on to it. And so it's just these pieces I think are important for people who haven't done this work before to realize all this stuff is right around us and we are engaging with it and we are actively pursuing it every day. We just don't realize whether it's science or not science or scientifically investigated, right?
Yes, that's a very good point. And I love to bring the animals when we speak about that because there is not much placebo effect and with them, right? So when you work with them and you see that it's working super well and super fast, whatever you are doing, and they get really a self-healing, powerful self-healing, and it makes you think, okay, placebo effect, probably not.
Yeah.
So maybe it could work for me too, if it works for my horse or my cat or my dog. So that's also something that I like bringing to the conversation too. Some people say, well, it's in your head only. You think that you're going to get better while you hold your glass, and so consequently, more than likely, it's going to happen. But that doesn't happen for animals, and yet for animals or whatever we are doing, our therapies, if we want to call them that way, are working so well. So fascinating world
It
of
is.
yeah.
It is. And too, with animals, I know lots of people who do healing work, their animals will come and join into the sessions. So if an animal wasn't interested, it would disappear. But many of them actually navigate in. My cat will actually go right up on the top of the person. If my husband's having a singing bowl session or something, my
Mhm.
cat will be in the middle of that and she will stay until that last frequency. And when that last strike has been made, off the table, off she goes. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Or if you're tracing figure eight patterns over a pet, when they've had enough, they just get up and go. They're done. It's
Wow.
lovely,
That's
and you have
wonderful.
no language for that, and they're happy.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. If they weren't happy, they wouldn't have stayed.
Yes.
Okay, so I know we were going to move into the opportunity to measure success. So we've dabbled kind of in and out of that. You have been doing some work with enzymes. Do you want to
Oh
talk a
yeah.
little bit about that work?
Oh yeah, it's fascinating. It's really fascinating. So enzymes are not only these things that help you digest, but in order for life to be, you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little things that are made by your cells in your cells to transform things. And then you have life. Cannot have life without enzymes. And so I was working on many different enzymes because I have realized that some of my clients had the enzymes in an okay shape, but not great. And yes, we could use corrections for that, but it took a lot of energy from them to transform uh, the, the energy of this enzyme to be a little bit more optimized. Then I was starting to think about and training them. Like you have a little training, you push them like you push a how do you call that in English? You push a kid
A swing?
a swing, thank you, and you push
Yeah.
the swing very gently and a little bit more and a little bit more until it reaches, let's say, the right frequency. Ping, ping, pom, the right frequency. And we can do that with enzymes too. Of course, not ping pong. It's it goes very fast. The frequency is extremely fast, but we use the same tool. The tool that we use is using the natural frequency of the enzyme that we put near or in the body. So near the body, it could be just something that you wear. It could be a kind of a patch. It could be a stone. It could be whatever it is. It could be a pill. It doesn't matter. So these pills, for example, it's made out of calcium. citrate, for example, you take the pill and it goes everywhere in your body. And everywhere in your body, you have this frequency that is natural, so it's not going to harm anything. And it's going to optimize all your enzymes everywhere. And consequently, you're going to more than likely feel better. For example, one that is, and I didn't expect that at all, was with histamine, for example. People don't like to have too much histamine. They have rashes and all that. And they take this pill that basically brings two enzymes, DAO and HNMT, to their optimal level. And all of a sudden, the rashes go away. So you don't need to have a pill that's going to block a receptor of histamine and all that kind of stuff. And you're going to have, you're going to feel drowsy, whatever it is. But the whole idea is that it can happen, it happens, it's there, people use it, it's not science fiction. We can today optimize enzymes in our bodies, which is basically a holy grail from 60 years ago. That's what many scientists wanted to do. You cannot do that for every enzyme and all that. Okay, there. It is not the holy grail and it doesn't work for everything, but it works for many things. And so those tools tell me that we can do so much for healing, not necessarily with medicine that, of course, we need sometimes, but with very simple tools. Those tools just received a frequency that is a natural frequency, and you just put it on your body. It's as simple as that. And one of my dreams was to provide those tools to third world countries that could not afford, pills that do this and that. And it costs close to nothing to do that. I mean, not nothing, but close to nothing to do that compared to some other medicines. So basically, we could be, as practitioners within the bio-wellness realm, could be at the forefront of a 21st, 22nd century medicine. It is a new medicine. And as Albert Einstein would say, that's the future of medicine, through frequencies. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that. Those tools that we use, whether it's stones, whether it's tea, whether it's whatever, when used properly, are really 21st, 22nd century medicine. And you mentioned it earlier. If we are able to show to people how to do muscle testing, basically asking your body, what's best for me for that situation, for this or for that, and knowing that the body is able to give an answer most of the time, I mean, isn't that absolutely amazing? That you can ask your body, what would be good for me now? And is this, let's say, a tomato that is somewhere, is this good for me now? Maybe it's rotten inside and you have no idea, but you just test it and your body says, no, absolutely not. You're like, why? Or maybe you have pesticide on it or whatever, and your body says, no. We can test so many things. Food, obviously, we can test about everything that our body wants. It's amazing what we can do. So tools, we can use so many. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And we were talking before we started recording about a lot of people they have, get plenty of rest, eat nutritious foods, make sure you exercise, all the things, you're supposed to do to be well. But not everybody needs the same thing. And sometimes using that muscle monitoring, you're able to find out exactly what are you in need of. Yeah. Because people will think, I didn't do enough. I should have not had that. I should have, and then berate themselves. That in itself is going to lower that frequency. But when you go, all I need right now is this one little piece, and you go, oh, okay. I did have that digression, and that's okay because I can do this one activity and it's going to bring everything back around. Very
Absolutely.
powerful. Yeah.
Very, very powerful. Yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
really it's a treasure. It really is a treasure. Being able to discover that each time. I use muscle testing all the time, even sometimes without knowing. I feel my way around. Do I need that? Do I need to do this? How many minutes do I need to do that for?
Yeah.
I was taking water just before we talked. And without knowing, I was like, okay, until when do I need to, how much water do I need? And my body just, okay, until here. Okay, I knew that's what I needed. Um, it's that, or you can, I have so many clients telling me, well, I do whatever I'm supposed to do. I go to the gym and I do this and that and that, and I drink this and that. But what's wrong? Well, actually, in your situation, going to the gym was not a good idea. Muscle
Yeah.
testing. It would be better to do this and that. Gym in general, okay, for most people, that's what the science tells you. In general, you take, I don't know, 100,000 people and you use metadata to see for most people what's the best. But you are not most people. You're a particular person with your particular needs, your particular genes, your epigenetics that can, epigenetic is basically a situation that you live in or with from your own generation and also previous generations that basically shape the way your genes are going to be uh, kicked on or off.
Hmm.
So sometimes you don't really belong to the general population. You belong to your own situation, period. Muscle testing can help you say, this is what you need, not that, this for the moment. Maybe in a month it's going to be different. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's an amazing tool. And I have a lot of clients who are from medical families and nurses and all that. And at one point, I was surprised that I had so many people coming from uh, that profession. And I realized they realize that there is something else that's needed as well. They realize that um, whatever medicine is saying, which uh, I applaud in many ways, it's not the whole story, and they realize that, and they realize that for themselves and for the kids and all that, and they realize that there is another tool. It's not the end of the story. When I told you that about the placebo, right? Placebo that works 80 to 90% of the time. It's a quote from a neuropsychiatrist from Paris, from Sorbonne, who was trying to tell his team there is much more than what you have learned in your books. He's using energy stuff with, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I don't know if it's dealing with hands at the beginning and the end of a surgery or whatever it was. But it was clearly energy work. And he said, when it works 90% of the time, I don't call that placebo. And especially if the person is sleeping on my table. And they all do better, or nearly all do better after that. So there is much more. Come on, wake up. I called myself after a while. Um, I don't remember the term that I was using, but basically a little bit not very open-minded as
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
scientist, you know,
Hmm.
um, because the way we learn, whether we learn medicine or biology, whatever it is, it's supposed to be the truth. That is the way it is. That's period. There is no other way. And what you learn is from science. Well, the science is great, and I agree that it's great, but that's not the whole story. We need to integrate both.
Hmm.
And both the biophysics of energy, let's call it that way, and the medical field, they need to talk to each other with the languages that we have. And the language can be, like I said about the enzyme and training enzymes. That's biophysics. It's used all the time now. It's used in industries, it's used in so many aspects. We use that all the time. We have the right words to speak about it. And now we can use it in ourselves. Let's call it the way it's supposed to be called, entrainment of enzymes through frequencies. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And more and more people, more younger people anyway, and some older people as well, but younger people are open to this and realize that, I don't see the problem. I don't see the
Yes.
problem. We can really speak about both at the same time. We just need to find the right language. Yeah. It's a fascinating world, isn't it?
It is.
Shapes in
It
incredible.
is. It's, I'm so grateful every day to have discovered it and to have been as interested as I've been to go and find out more, because it just gets juicier and juicier as you go along.
That
Yeah.
is true.
Yeah. We're coming up to the top of the hour, and I would like for people to know, how can they interact with you? That's a great way to connect with you.
To me personally,
Yeah. So you take clients. You have clients that
yes,
come
I
to
do. I do take clients. Um, And so, how they can interact with me, they can search my name on Google, and um, I have my practice, Natural Bioenergetics. Um, they can actually go on the Natural Bioenergetics Global.org and bglobal.org website, and you have practitioners that do the same thing as I do, and sometimes in different ways a little bit, some better for some areas and all that. So wonderful people. Um, you can also go to naturalbioenergetics.ca. You're going to have also practitioners who do this kind of thing. Yeah, that's what I would do. That's how they could connect with me and people who do what I do.
Perfect. And so there's the opportunity for one-on-one sessions, and then there's also the opportunity for learning more. So if somebody's really interested, then they can pick up a class, get started, and dive in.
That's right.
Um,
That's
yeah.
right. They can, and then we're going to have probably there is a lot that's offered at Akama University as well, and we are thinking about a program, a bachelor degree, a baccalaureate, that hopefully is going to happen, bringing people into learning the science and learning the energy work, if we can call it that way, or the frequencies or that kind of thing, together and in a very serious fashion. It's a university, and little by little being able to cross pollinate, if that's the right word, those different notions and grow together. It's important that we all know more. I don't know enough about everything, all these other modalities that exist, and I would like to. And that's going to be an opportunity for me as well to learn more. And I would suggest the people who are listening to the podcast um, to open their minds to both the science and these modalities, these energetic modalities, and also be open to all these different wonderful frequencies that are around them, whether it is people or things, stones, teas, etc., that can really impact them. And just by opening yourself, being aware of that, just doing that can change a lot in your life.
Mhm. Mhm. That's a great way to succinctly pull it together. Thank you. Thank you for the conversation and the opportunity to think about science, I think, in a different way than we've been thinking, and to realize how much we have inside of us that is science that we can bring out by how we know things and how we experience them. And And I invite people to check out Natural Bioenergetics Global because there's all kinds of opportunities there. Akamai University can be looked up as well if that's an area that you want to dive into. And Natural Bioenergetics is a partner organization with canbewell.org. And that's another great place too for a directory for people to be able to look up anybody they'd like to connect with. So Thibaud, thank you so much for the conversation today. And I'm going to say cheers from my TEAlightful cup. And
cheers, and what a pleasure it has been. Thank you, Michelle.
Excellent. And as you've been listening today, we hope you've taken some tidbits away and you're going to give a try to some of the ideas that we've talked about, and look forward to where our conversations go next. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to Be Well with Dr. Michelle Greenwell. There are a couple of resources I want to just point out. When you go to the website greenwellcenter.com, you'll have a pop-up window. That pop-up gives you the top 8 easy stress releasers that you can use every day. That's something you can put beside your computer, the bathroom mirror, beside the bedside table. A great resource. Also, my YouTube channel. It is full of playlists with all kinds of different ways that you can activate energy and bring vitality into your day. You can find that when you go to YouTube at Michelle Greenwell. And last, if you're a Linktree person, Linktree, linktr.ee/Greenwell Center. That has all my resources in one spot. Those are for intricate little things that you can't get everywhere. And it's a wonderful way for me to be able to share all the different aspects of the kind of work I do. So thank you for listening. Be sure to drink that tea. And if you want to have the tea blend that was shared in the podcast today, then be sure to check out capebretontea.ca. Have a wonderful day.